The growth is where the juice is in life. This is, we've all heard this: if you're not growing, you're dying. And, for many years, I didn't quite comprehend what that really meant. Like, I understood. If I'm not growing, I'm going the other way. I get it. But the real point of that verse, in my opinion, is if I'm not growing, I'm not experiencing what I should be experiencing in life. Growth is the fun part of life. It's challenging myself. It's trying to become someone better, and the fulfillment that I get from knowing that I am better today than I was yesterday. And I'm way better than I was a week ago. I'm way better than I was a year ago. And that growth is so exciting. So to surround yourself, go to courses like this, show up in places where you know it's going to challenge you, you know it's going to help you grow. No matter how well you're doing, you could be doing better.
How do you get 10,000 people to take a step to the left? What's behind the relentless mindset of a world champion? Why do teams of exceptional talent fail? How do you manage the pressure to perform? These are just some of the curious questions we will attempt to answer as we bring you world leaders, curious minds, exceptional talent, successful CEOs, and incredible human beings who know how to inspire great leaders and are inspiring great leaders themselves. I am Craig Johns, high performance leadership expert, international speaker, and CEO of Speakers Institute Corporate and World Sport Coach. This is the Inspiring Great Leaders podcast, where the ordinary don't belong. Welcome to the Inspiring Great Leaders podcast. Our guest today is a multi-award winning entrepreneur, founder of Magnum Nutraceuticals, a Tony Robbins Platinum Partner, and co-founder of Play a Bigger Game. Our guest's education includes a BBA in Business, Entrepreneurial Leadership, and Marketing from the Kwantlen Polytechnic University. As the CEO and founder of Magnum Pharmaceuticals, he has taken it from startup to a $170 million company. He also spends time working with Rockbody retreats and traveling the world with Tony Robbins. I have the pleasure of bringing you a conversation with the NYC Journal's Top 30 to Watch in 2022, a high-energy, successful leader and people mover, and someone who is passionate about helping high achievers find fulfillment beyond career success. Markus Kaulius. Markus, welcome to the show.
Greg, absolute honor. Thank you so much. And I got to start by saying, I love your setup. You got this fancy, beautiful setup. It matches your brilliant accent. You've got the whole thing going on. I'm going to love our conversation today, and we are going to give people actionable things to take with them so that they can start living a more remarkable life that's filled with more fulfillment.
Oh, thank you for your kind words. Now, you've grown up in Canada. Now, give us a bit of a insight into what was in your mind as a young kid who has been chased around the playgrounds. What was the big dream?
My first years growing up, I felt stuck in a lot of ways. I come from a very broken home. We were poor in every way, not just financially, but spiritually. We were poor. The divorce happened when I was 7. And at that point, my mom had to go back to school full-time and work full-time. So essentially, I lost both of my parents on that same day. And I grew up as a very independent kid, but we did not have money. So all of my clothes were my sister's hand-me-downs. Ultimately, I was learning real fast. No money was really tough, and having money just seemed a lot better. And so I learned a good work ethic from a young age. But where my story really turns around, when I was 15, I felt a calling, and God said to me, hey, this life you're living, it doesn't have to be this way. You could be who you want to be. You don't have to be who the world has told you to be, because the world has put me in this box. And at that time, by the way, I was 6'4", 120 pounds.
Wow.
So the world wasn't too wrong when they were putting certain labels on me. But it was at that moment that I changed everything. I started to like who I was because I was becoming my authentic self. And I've now for the last 30 years been working into my authenticity, trying to find out who I'm supposed to be on this planet. And the more I learn and the more I pour into that, the greater the fulfillment, the joy, the peace, the love that I get to experience every single day.
Yeah. So what a great realization at such a young age. I mean, we see so many people, in their 40s, 50s, 60s, still trying to figure out who they are and even finding some sense of the world. People find, for whatever reason, they settle into comfort and what is, and rather than looking deep within and going, what can I do in a way? So that moment, was there a catalyst to it? Was there just a thought that came into your head? Was there a role model? What happened?
It's a beautiful question. Absolutely. There was a defining moment. My father, who had pretty much been out of my life for quite a few years, almost a decade, he came back and he was kind enough to invite me with his new family on a trip to Maui.
Oh,
and
nice.
It was on that plane ride that I had pretty much hit rock bottom in life. I had been picked on so hard. I'd been bullied. I just was lacking in every way. And I felt a voice. I felt God's voice say, hey, when you get to Maui, no one knows who you are. No one knows that you get picked on. No one knows how you act back at home. So what if you got to be yourself? What would that look like? And this was such an incredible moment because it really does, it helped me understand, and I believe it to this day, that we all have the answers inside of us. I knew right away, well, if I'm going to be a confident guy, I'm going to walk like this, and I'm going to shake a hand a little more firmly, and I'm going to make great eye contact, and I'm going to make jokes. I'll make jokes about myself. I was a completely different human being when I stepped off that plane, and that's how people accepted me. And my life was radically changed. I was dating girls. I was hanging out with the coolest kids. No one ever thought of bullying me. And it was such proof that we can change in an instant. And then when I came home, I now had to start building the habits around becoming the best version of myself. And I absolutely had great role models. It was when I was 15 that I found Tony Robbins. And I started to listen to his stuff and put all of his stuff into action immediately because I needed it. I needed to make these radical changes so I could become this person that I wanted to become.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I love it that when you can have sort of divine intervention in a way and be able to get to that realization. Yeah, I just kind of having this picture at the moment. You said 6'4", 120 pounds, which that's a pretty lean person, pretty lean, tall person. And you're talking about Tony Robbins, who's probably, maybe similar size, a little bit bigger, but he's not 120 pounds. He's a big man, big hands,
280,
big voice,
290, yep.
Big everything. So yeah, more than twice the size in weight wise. To have someone like that can really bring that positive psychology into your world. And, we've seen so much education. We're seeing a lot more people using the power of positive psychology along the way. You talk about implementing things. What were those early things that you were implementing which shifted, it really helped you embed this new mindset and change?
Oh, this is such a fantastic question. And just before I answer that, I want to say this. For anybody listening, you don't have to wait for this light bulb moment. You don't have to wait for your plane ride to Maui where God actually speaks to you. You can just think today, what if? Just let that question resonate and get through to you. What if you started to play a bigger game in your life? What would that look like? If you were going to level up, a good level up, what would that look like? And so I truly believe everybody has those answers inside of them, or you can turn to some people close to you who have reached higher levels of success and ask them, what are some of the habits that you do? So to answer your question, that's exactly what I did. I started to look at people who have made it in certain categories of life and what are their habits. And, listening to Tony, I'm listening to this stuff and it makes such clear sense. Yeah. If you look at things that way, I could see how you'd be more successful. But what I started to recognize is that very few people on this planet do this stuff consistently.
Yeah.
And it's with consistency that everything changes. So I just thought, hey, I'm going to be that guy. I can see that 1 + 1 = 2. So as long as I do these things every single day, I know what the outcome will be. And praise God, it was that way. So I just put those efforts in every single day. So when you ask about some of the habits, number one, getting my exercise. Exercise radically changed my life, and it will radically change anybody's life. People don't pay enough attention to how important exercise is for the rest of the things in your life. It's not just about having a better body or having nicer abs. Getting the energy that I require to show up as the man I want to show up as, I have to have my exercise. And I have to eat clean, because if I don't eat clean, I know the garbage foods are going to weigh me down. And I'm going to show up like this. And that's not who Markus is. And that's not who this world needs me to be. And then it's not just that part of it. Exercise is also about your integrity. It's about saying, hey, I take care of the things in my life. And it starts with me. It starts with my body. It starts with my mind. My body and my mind are designed for this stuff. I have to do it. And I said I would do it, and then I did it. And then I celebrated that I did it. And I'm going to do it again tomorrow. And you see how these things can just build off of each other. And all of a sudden, you have already become a better version of yourself. And as long as you keep going, you won't slip back to that old way.
I love it. I think that's good. And, we for a lot of people, exercise is one of those first things that drops off the plate when things get busy. But it's so important to keep that going. For me, I always like to try and do that in the morning to keep that going. But it's one of those fundamentals. It's like, as you said, nutrition, eating really well, and being able to, relax the mind and actually recover effectively. You can't just be on all the time, or you can't just be idling all the time either. You've got to be able to have that ability to be on and then be fully off. And this idling that we see with a lot of people is it's not serving them at all, serving anyone else around them. You've got to be able to switch gears. You've got to be able to turn the engine off. You need to be able to bring that energy that you need and that person that you need in the different aspects of your life. It can't just be one. Or it can't just be a little bit of one. It's got to be all aspects, because, we can't just have a job. We've got to have that support network around us. So I think that's an amazing approach.
Greg, let me jump in. Let me jump in here real quick, because I love what you're hitting on. And you and I both know we're talking to a bunch of CEOs, executives, big thinkers right now. So they don't want to be playing that game of like, I'm showing up as a 6 every day, 7 every day. No, these are people who are going, I got to show up as a 9 or 10, especially if I want to reach that next level in my life. And I also know we're speaking to these people who, you're right, they drop the exercise. It's one of the first things to drop because business comes first, and maybe family, and which would be nice if they ranked higher on your list. But how many businessmen you and I both work with who, after a certain point in their life and experience and success in business, they start to reevaluate and go, holy smokes, my health is not where it needs to be. Now, it's not just about prioritizing it, but what I love that you said is you do it in the morning. I can't more highly recommend people get their exercise done in the morning. Yeah, you might have to wake up early, but you're now going to have the energy for the day. But more importantly, you're not going to drop the workout. The workout is so easy to drop when business says, hey, I need you here until 8 p.m. tonight. You're going to be working all the way through. How are you going to get your workout in? You can't. But if you get it done before your day starts, not only do you feel accomplished for doing it, not only are you doing something amazing for your body and for your mind, but now you'll have way more energy to carry you through the whole day.
Love it. All right. So, you're a teenager, you find this change by going to Maui, this calling. You start to see a lot more positive things happen in your life. Things are changing. Moving into a world outside of school, which is in some ways there's structure around it, right? You get up, you go to school. You might have activities after school, or you have some work that you might be starting work in your later teens, and then you come home, and in most cases you've got dinner there. In some cases, you may need to organize yourself, but it's a relatively structured life. Then we kind of leave and go to university, or we leave and start a job, and we're on our own in a way, and things kind of change a bit. So for you, what was that, moving out of high school, what was that next step for you? What did you want career-wise? Where were you going?
So I had already started a few small businesses. I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. It was in my blood. I had to work for myself. I just always was driven by this idea that I want to be paid for the work that I'm going to put in. And I'll put in all kinds of work, and I'll put in all kinds of thought into things. Mm-hmm. And so one of my first good businesses that served me well was a supplement company that I started out of my bedroom. And I don't even think I was 20 years old yet. And I had this idea while I was in university that I could buy a bunch of supplements, because people were coming to me anyway for supplement advice. I loved supplementation. I loved health. I loved fitness. And so I had this idea on a Tuesday night, and I took action immediately. Wednesday, I was making phone calls. Thursday, I had my first delivery. I had $10,000 of supplements delivered, and they were on my bedroom wall, just like this. And I was selling supplements. Friday, I had $15,000 of supplements on my wall. And by Saturday, I had my first sale. And for the next couple of years, I was just selling. It was like I was a drug dealer out of my house, but I was selling healthy stuff. And people would come by at all hours. They'd pick up their supplements. We'd talk about supplements. We'd talk about health and fitness. And I loved it, because I love helping people improve their life. And I knew they were experiencing a better life because of something that I was doing. And I was just had a small part in that. From there, I started to question, though, how am I going to make bigger money? Like, I have big goals and I have got big dreams. And it became clear to me that I had to do something bigger. So I moved into my first store, and I had a retail stores for supplements. And then I quickly had 3 stores. So I had a little chain of supplement stores. And then I asked the same question again: how do I get bigger? And I didn't love the answer through more and more stores. And I really felt the calling that I would start my own brand. And that was January 17th of 2005. The idea came to me. I took action on it immediately. And a little more than 18 years later, I got to sell the company, exit the business. It was one of the most exciting, amazing times of my life. And that was just last year.
Wow. Congratulations on doing that. Not many businesses, last more than 2 years, let alone as long as you did, and then be able to successfully sell it and feel fulfilled that you've done everything you wanted to with it, and let go of the baby, so to speak. Sometimes people create businesses and they can't let go. And so they miss that opportunity to be able to sell it to someone else and get closure on it and be able to move on to something new. For you, that been able to sell it, let it go, what was that transition like for you?
I loved it. I love the experience of it, because I used to be an actor. Growing up, I had that acting bug, and I just liked the idea of playing different characters and different roles. And in my eyes, I was going, wow, I've been playing the same role for 25 years. I was in the supplement industry. I was doing these things in supplements. And when I felt this calling to do something new and to sell my business, I was like, this is amazing. This is a new role. I get to play a whole new role in my life. I'm going to take it on completely. But you're so right that so many people who have businesses, it's their identity. And I could tell even during the process, I was like, I'm going to be used to help other people who are exiting their business do it with more fulfillment, more joy, understanding where the tough parts are going to come. I'll tell you, I want to share with you this one story. 2 months after the sale, and I have a 6-month contract. So I'm there for 4 more months. I'm packing up my office. Now, I had the most beautiful office. I built this building. I had a conference room inside my office. Like, it was floor to ceiling windows. Like, it was brilliant. And I'm having to pack it up because I'm going to give it to the new owner, the new CEO. And I have to move for the next 4 months into this small little office right next door. Just one window, not that much great light. And I'm packing up, and it just absolutely hit me like, this is the moment. This is the moment that will crush people. The moment where it's like, what have I done? Oh, I shouldn't have done. Who did I give this to? This was my... And I was laughing and smiling and literally whistling as I packed, because I was like, this is a moment that I'm going to help other people through, because so many people go, why did I do this? And they can call me and I can go, hey, if you don't go through this moment, you don't get to play the next game. So enjoy it, embrace it, laugh about it, laugh that you're going to go back to a smaller office for 4 months, laugh about the fact that you're not number one in that company anymore. You're not even number two. You're not even important anymore. But that's okay, because the next stage of your life is going to be so amazing, and you can't start that until you get through this.
Love it. Love it. That's good. So you're building this, this business, you started in, like many entrepreneurs do, they start in their bedroom or in their garage or on the breakfast table, and they, you do whatever you can to make ends meet and to get it moving. And I think at the time for yourself, you're not really thinking about the inconvenience to the house or to your life there, and I think a lot of the times you kind of forget about the inconvenience to if you've got family or other people living there. But before you know it, if you're really dedicated to it and you put your heart and your passion and your soul into it, you're able to have those big glass windows that create those spaces. Was there a moment early on where you're like, this is difficult, why am I doing this? A lot of businesses get to that year 2, 3, they get through that honeymoon phase and go, they're not sure. Was there a moment for you like that you had to navigate, or were you just so connected to it and enjoying that process that it didn't happen?
This is a great question, because I know there's a lot of people listening right now who go, I think I might be in this moment right now. And my encouragement to those people is to give it some analysis. There are times when you want to you got to take the business behind the shed and put it to sleep. That is an analysis that you have to go through, and you have to look at it objectively and invite other people to look at it and talk about it. What are the possible upsides, and what are the chances that stuff's going to happen? For me, I was very fortunate and blessed that I knew I had so much purpose, and I knew that Magnum was the answer. There were unbelievably tough times. In my first 5 years at Magnum, I didn't take a salary. I didn't take a salary, not just because it wasn't doing well enough. We were actually doing pretty good, and we had some great financial years. I want to say we were in the millions already. By year 5, we were 3 or 4 million maybe. But I still didn't touch a penny because I knew where it needed to go. And I started that company with almost nothing. Like, I didn't have investors. I didn't have a big bankroll. Man, it was bootstrapping one day after another. And then one of the toughest times in Magnum's history was about year 6 or 6.5, 7. So remember, I did my 5 years without a salary. I've finally now taken a small salary. Like, I was taking $24,000, and then I moved up to $36,000 a year. Woo! And then I made a big mistake with some inventory, and I had to go another 4 or 6 months with no more salary. That was so hard. And it was a multi-million-dollar mistake. So I was sitting there going, holy smokes, I need to level up as a CEO. I need to level up as an inventory manager. I need to level up in every way in my life. But I embraced the challenge and went, you know what? I am going to level up through this. So that's one of my other encouragements to people. When you are going through a challenge, when there's a challenge in your face, recognize that this is your chance to level up. It helps you embrace the challenge more, and you'll come up with more creative ideas on how to get through these challenging times. But if we look at it like, why is this happening to me? I shouldn't be here. man, that's going to be really hard to get through. So if you can have that attitude of like, no, I couldn't get to grade 5 without going through grade 4. There are going to be tests. We have to be able to prove that we handled grade 4 if they're going to accept me into grade 5. So just look at it that way and go, this is my chance to level up in life.
Good. I like that. It's not all smooth sailing when it comes to business or it comes to leadership, and you've got to be able to deal with the highs and lows. And when things don't quite go right, you can't just pack up and leave. You've got to be able to stick at it and work hard through it. And I think that's a really good approach. We're kind of navigating, what they're talking about as a recession or possible recession for the last couple of years. And obviously COVID, which is a big hit. We had probably the last recession back in the late 2000s, and your business would have been, sort of 3-4 years old around that point. Did that affect your business at all, or was it kind of negligent in a way, or not negligent, sorry, was it something that kind of sat outside the business? It was able to run without any effects through that period?
So I was very fortunate during that time because people still placed health as a high priority to them. So even though, we had a recession in Canada too, it wasn't nearly as bad as other places, certainly not as bad as in the US, but people still prioritized health. So we actually kept growing through those years. But I'll tell you, COVID was the most challenging time in business ever. And I'm sure there's lots of people going, duh. So there is the perfect example though, to look for the opportunity in any scenario. And there's my huge encouragement I want to give to everybody who's running a business, who has their own business. Tough economic times are not your killer. If you believe they're your killer, guess what? They will be. Because you're standing there going, I'm about to get killed. I'm about to get killed. That changes how you run things. It's not the way to be. And during COVID, the first month that COVID really was a thing, that was March of 2020. It was where it was like, oh my goodness, things are actually shutting down. This thing's real. We dropped 70% in sales. That's unbelievable. There's very few businesses that can handle that. And the next month we were down again. I'm sitting there going, oh my goodness, I might lose everything. And I threw myself a pity party. I wish I could say like, oh no, it was just a couple days. Man, it was weeks. I had weeks of a pity party, and the government just kept squeezing and we're trying to stay alive, but then new restrictions are coming in every day. It was just insane. And that's the state of mind I had, and we were crumbling until one day I went, wait. Lots of people are going to do amazing things during COVID. Yeah. There are going to be business people who do amazing business, come up with solutions. Wait a minute. I'm not the guy who sits on the bench and watches the other guys play. I'm that guy. I will come up with amazing ideas. And it was literally that day that everything changed. And I brought that attitude and that mindset to the table. And I brought my executives into the room and I said, today, everything changes. Somebody's going to do amazing things and we will be writing that story. People will be talking about us in that fashion. And it was absolutely incredible in this 2 to 3 hour meeting, how people went like, oh my goodness, you should have seen their eyes. They're like, Markus, what are you talking about? Like everybody's going out of business. This is nuts. I said, okay, what if they weren't? What if there was some amazing ideas to have? Hey, here's an idea. By the way, we had just moved into this huge building, 2.5 times the size of our old building, and I bought it. So I had this massive mortgage. Like the stress that I was under was crazy. I said, guys, we have so much space back there. Find us some renters. Find us somebody who needs some warehouse space. And again, they're looking at me. They're like, what are you talking about? Everybody's going under. I go, you telling me Purell doesn't need warehouse space right now? You tell me anyone who sells toilet paper or cleaning products isn't looking for warehouse space right now. Literally 24 hours later, we had our first warehouse guest signed, and it was for a bunch of pallets of probiotic gum, and they were paying us $7,000 a month. Now, $7,000 isn't life-changing, but the point is that happened within 24 hours. And most importantly, what it did for the mentality of everyone in the building. They're like, oh my goodness, that took only 24 hours. What other great ideas could we come up with? Like that was one idea. And the ideas started to come and come and come. And in fact, we had one down year and it wasn't even that bad. And then the very next year, we set a new sales record. And the next year, we set another sales record.
Awesome. I love that. And I just find that fascinating because I think about COVID and when it all hit, people started working from home. We saw, the fitness industry, people buying home gyms. We saw people buying bikes all around the world. And so those industries were like literally going, we can't keep up with demand. The supply chain is struggling because of the limitations on transport, etc. And so I would have thought, and this is sitting here going, sports supplements and things like that health supplements would have gone through the roof. I'm quite fascinated to hear that. Was there any indication why that was happening, why that dropped off? Was it because that you were selling directly to stores and stores were not open, or was it because of online sales? What was happening there and how did you navigate it?
That's a great question. So you nailed it. We had a business model at that time that was primarily to stores. And now stores were shutting down left, right, and center. They were being forced to close. Like it was just a zoo. And don't forget also, those first 2 months, nobody actually knew what COVID was yet. Like if you remember the mentality, it was like, are we all about to die? Like, is this one of those movies where 95% of the population dies? Because that's what the news was also telling us. So people weren't thinking about spending money on anything except like survival, like putting our money under the bed, toilet paper, stock up on more toilet paper, invest in toilet paper. So now we were past the first 2 to 3 months, but stores are still closed. They're not allowed to open. So now we had to radically change our business model to go, how do we get more direct to consumer? And that doesn't just happen overnight, right? So of course, Amazon's killing it. And the other brands who were already established online were killing it. And we just had to reinvent ourselves and come up with this stuff. But again, this is such a great question because how many people listening right now, and you've got a business model that's going this way and it's starting to fail and it's starting to struggle and you are just so focused on, no, you don't understand, we're failing. Yeah, but what if? What if you just changed your business model slightly? Look at the other people are already doing this. What if you just started to change this? Or what if you came up with a whole new idea? My favorite question is what if? It just helps you loosen up your story. We have so many stories we tell ourselves every single day. Like, no, you don't understand, Craig. This is the way it is. And it's like, hey, there might be truth to that. But what if you're not exactly right? What if there's a little bit more of another answer? So that was the big what if for me. My whole life was, you are too skinny. You are not attractive enough. Bullies love you. Girls will never look at you. That was my story until the what if just shook it a little bit. What if? What if that's just something you're saying to yourself and the world doesn't actually believe it that way? What if? And as long as you explore it a little bit, you're going to go, oh my goodness, there are like a billion stories I could tell myself. And here's the coolest thing about our brains. Whatever you want to focus on, your brain is going to help you find evidence. So when I was saying Markus is a loser, Markus is going to make nothing of his life, there was tons of evidence. Oh yeah, look at how I get picked on. Look at, I don't get picked in gym class. I'm this. But then as soon as I said, no, Markus is a confident guy who is going to have a successful life. Then my brain's like, yeah, you know what else? You're this. Look at all these positive things. So which way do you want to use your brain? And so many of us just go, yeah, no, but you don't understand. I hear you. But just try for a little while to use your brain this way and say, yeah, what if? What if I was wrong going this way?
It's just making me think about something, right? So, you work with Tony Robbins. He talks about, proximity is power. and having the right people around you that not only will, support you when things are going well, but will also acknowledge things when things may not be going so good, or be able to ask the questions that just get you to think a little bit differently. Think that what if. I had a fascinating experience last year. I have always worked really hard. I come off a farm where we worked hard. It was the nearest neighbor was a mile away. My parents didn't come from big money or anything like that, so we had to work for everything. And my dad retired at 45 on the farm. Like, he was told he wasn't going anywhere as a kid. When he left school early, they said, "You're not going to make it," and he retired at 45. Now, I'm pretty competitive. I was like, "Oh, I wonder if I can beat that." And I don't think I'm going to be quite there. And actually, to be quite honest, I love working, so I'm not someone who's worried about that. And as an athlete, competing internationally and winning national titles, where I'm in endurance sports, so there are times where you need to do that 30, 40-hour week, and you're pushing your body to the absolute limit. But I had never received a fatigue that I did until I had a baby last year. My most amazing time in my life, but sleep deprivation was, in a way, one of those killers in a way. It absolutely hammered me. And we have an easy baby. But those moments where, early on, where they're waking up every couple of hours, and you're just getting into deep sleep, and you get woken up, and you're hyper vigilant, and you're aware of everything that's going on all the time, I found that started to wear me down. And then we went to a point where my wife went working full time, and I had a period of 4 weeks where we had a lot going on in the business, and we were really having to try and really work hard to get new business coming in, because we had one of our top clients who said, "Look, we're putting on external training on hold for a couple of years. We're going to go everything internally because we want to protect our people, and rather than making them redundant, we want to reduce expenses." And I'm like, look, I love that to bits. So I had that, but then I had to look after, working from home, the child, and try and run a business at the same time while already being sleep deprived. And so by the time I hit November, I'm running on about 5%. And I had never been there. But what I found happen, and this was where the proximity around you is really, really, really important, is I had my brain, the neurochemistry was changing. And so, because I never understood when people talked about, look, I'm getting burnout, or I'm, depression kicks in, etc. And I never really understood how that could happen, because I have a very positive mindset, have always been really positive about things going on. But I found, and I was aware of it, where I was focusing on the obstacle, not the opportunity. I was becoming cynical. I was becoming more negative, and I had amazing things going on in my life. Best year of my life, having a child, but my brain changed. And you kind of go, look, tomorrow I'll get some good sleep tonight. I'll be right tomorrow. I'll be thinking positive tomorrow. And until I had those key people around me go, "Hey, we've noticed this. Are you okay? What do you need help? Like, do you need support?" And that was a bit of a light bulb moment for me. But I don't know if that whole positive psychology, my brain wasn't able to function in that way at that time for someone who had had it all their life. And a fascinating moment for me. And so I think it's really important that we've got to surround ourselves with people that are looking out for you and are able to ask those right questions, because we can't always do it on our own. And so that was just a fascinating experience for me, where I felt like I'd lost, not on purpose, like I wasn't thinking it then, but when I look back, I lost control of my mind from the way I thought from a positive point of view. And it's still one of those challenging moments as I still trying to recover from being down at that 5%. I'm pretty good now, but there's still some negative thoughts there that I was never experiencing previously, and where I would be looking at the obstacle so much. And so this year's been really, really good in moving forward, but it needs help of people around me. So for you, what have you noticed in your career and the people that you've had around you? You know, obviously talk about Tony Robbins and being able to follow and work with him. But were there anyone else that were really able to support you in times where you might have had those lapses or things, as you say, get challenging in life, to be able to just go, that reminder to go, hey, you know what? Mine's not quite going where it needs to right now. Let's bring it back.
Craig, first of all, thank you so much for your vulnerability. That's a wonderful story that's so relatable to so many people. And during COVID, you know, I'd speak the same way as you. Like I'm an ultra positive person, but that was the first time in my life, man, I just kept finding myself focusing on the wrong things. And so I want to just give some people encouragement right now who are listening and are like, you know, I'm dealing with that right now, Craig. Like, what would you and Marcus say to the person who's in it right now? And Craig said a few things that I just want to highlight, and I'm gonna expand on. One, focusing on the things that are out of your control is the worst thing you can do. We're designed, the marketers these days are trying their best to make you constantly do that. The news wants you focusing on all the negative stuff in the world that you have zero control over. Social media, the exact same. You need to focus on what's in your control. And you need to start eliminating a bunch of the things, at least for a short period of time, if not forever, the things that are out of your control. So I don't watch news. And I know so many people, well, how do you stay, you know, in touch with what's going on? Trust me, you'll always know what's going on. You think there isn't a person on the planet that hasn't heard what's going on in Russia and the Ukraine, but I don't want to know every detail. And I don't want to know, oh, did you know that the Canadian government did this and this and this? That drove me crazy. And that was just like you. It was the first time in my life where I'm feeling these thoughts. I'm like, oh, that's what depression it feels like. This is what leads to depression, because I'm just focusing on how, you know, if you're thinking that the government is constantly after you, how do you live a positive life? How are you going to do anything with your life if you're like, the government is coming after me, the government's doing this, this, and this. Why isn't the government helping me? Why isn't it? Man, that is a terrible place to be. So again, I just want to encourage you, start focusing on things that are in your control. There's so much in your control. You just need to start taking control of it. So things like exercise, that's in your control. You can do that. Things like the food that you consume, that's in your control. You can do that. Taking care of your sleep every night, that's on you. And by the way, that is something that I know you were trying to highlight right there, and I'm sure you recognize for yourself, even though, you know, we're going through a period where we've got brand new babies. It's going to be, it's not easy to go, just get your 8 hours of sleep. But to recognize when that chapter of your life is over, you have to focus on making sure your sleep is great. I learned if I don't have my proper sleep, I can easily turn into a mess, and that's not okay. And there's so much we can do to control our sleep. Put your phone away 2 hours before bed. Don't put the screen anywhere near you. All the science is saying very conclusively, if you turn that light on before you go to bed, your brain will take at least 90 minutes to calm down. That means you might be able to get to sleep, but you're barely asleep. So it's not actually good sleep. So put that thing away. Don't look at the news. Don't look at social media before you go to bed. Read a book. Have a nice conversation. Get into a calm place where when you go to sleep, you just drift off. That is how we're going to recuperate properly and wake up the next day with energy, excitement, focus, and you keep going on a better path.
Yeah, it's a great way to approach it, and it's, you know, we get addicted to things, and unfortunately, sometimes we get addicted to things that don't serve us. You know, you've done Ironman and obviously been involved in the fitness industry as well, and you know that exercise is a healthy addiction when you find it. It's a great addiction to have. I think some people may take it a little bit too far, but in most cases, it's a healthy addiction, and you know we need to. I think a lot of the time people go to things like social media and, you know, watching Netflix series or whatever to try and, or they go to alcohol or things like that. It's kind of like addiction is to try and find those happy hormones but you can get that. And the beauty about exercise is that they kick in and they have a slow release. Whereas something like alcohol, drugs, and social media, it's a short hit, and then you hit it down pretty fast. So you're trying to get those hormones back up. So if you can get that exercise early in the day, it will last for multiple hours in a row. And so that's the beauty of exercising, getting it in early in the morning, along the way. For you, you've sold this business, you've achieved this great thing, you talked about playing a bigger game. What does that look like in 2024, and what are you doing?
Thank you for the lead in. It's beautiful. I've got a couple big things in my life right now. So first of all, the last few years, this new chapter of my life, I've been so blessed to be able to invest in a bunch of businesses. I have ownership in some amazing businesses that are making real impact in this world. So that stuff is so much fun. One of the things I'm called to do is help lift up the next generation of entrepreneurs. And not just entrepreneurs, but high achievers. I just love working with people who have that spirit in them, have that drive in them, but don't necessarily know which way to go, don't know who to surround themselves with to make sure they are leveling up in life. And so there's two things I was called to do. Number one, God wrote this book through me. And the book comes out in July of 2024. It's on pre-sale as of April of 2024. I'm so excited to share this with the world. It's called Play a Bigger Game. And it's the 7 universal principles to help you experience real fulfillment and win at life. Because success, so many people are discovering, success is not just money. And so many people reach this great pinnacle in their career financially, and then they recognize, oh my goodness, I've got a wallet full of dollars and a house full of strangers, or my health is suffering, or I've, one thing or another. Real fulfillment is having success in all these areas and being the healthiest version of yourself, having great relationships and doing great things in the business world. So the other piece of this is I've started a community. It's a mastermind for big thinkers who want to play a bigger game. And it's called playabiggergame.com. And it's this beautiful community where people come together who are big thinkers, and we challenge each other. We keep each other accountable. We learn from each other. And there are brilliant minds in there showing up every single day. This is one of my favorite masterminds, the favorite groups of people I've ever got to be around. And it's so important, like you talked about, to find the people who you're supposed to be with in this life, who can hold you accountable, who can lift you up when you're down. I love talking about we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. When you really think about that, if you're the high achiever, chances are your 5 are the ones dragging you down. And it doesn't mean that now you have to dump your 5. Quick, get away from them. But it means start involving more people who are lifting you up, who are challenging you, who are helping you to think bigger and play bigger. And if you struggle to go, well, where do I find those people? Come hang out with me and my people. We'd love to be part of your vibe.
I love that. I love that, being able to, that what if, what if we could, what if that possible? We're just building out a great program at the moment for a group of companies in the fitness industry here in Australia, where we're putting them through simulators to help them play a bigger game in a way, to get them to think differently as an industry, not just to sit there and go, okay, we're competing against you, because they're all competitors, but to actually bring them together and use a case study of a great example of a customer service big brand in Australia as the catalyst to how we bring out the learning and to get them to think differently and simulate them through multiple times over a 2-day period. And so I love that approach where you can just get them to just think a little bit differently, just get them to shift the axis, 10 degrees or even 1 degree sometimes, just to go, what if there was a different way? And I think sometimes we can get so caught up in our success that we might be big players in an industry or big players in what we do in supporting people in the community or supporting our client base, supporting our our communities, that we get a little bit blindsided to the change and being relevant and the shifts, and we, rather than lead it, we kind of see it happen and then don't know how to respond to it or to work with it. And so how can we get people to be better leaders of industry and leave a better legacy in that industry versus just being really focused on where we are right now and missing the boat? Who wants to be the next Kodak, who, etc. We need to make sure we're the next Uber or whoever it may be to think a bit differently. And, if I come back to where you were, that when COVID hit, you had this path that was working really, really well for you, where you were supplying companies, etc. like that, to then go, you know what, we actually need to look at consumer. And, thinking about it now, you probably go, it should have been a no-brainer. We should have been running these two things parallel from day one. It just makes sense. But we were doing so successful in one channel that we just went, let's keep going. Why do we need to change? Why do we need to evolve in that sense? Because this is working. And this happens as human beings as well. We might develop as a human being and go, this is great, this is working so well, but we forget to continually upgrade and evolve and consider how can we be a better version of ourselves. So I love this whole metaphor of playing a bigger game, not only from a business sense or a human being sense, but just what is that impact going to be on the people around us and the world in 2100 and beyond, when we're not going to be around.
Yes.
Which is
Brother,
great.
I love what you're doing, and I love how you are challenging people to have that bigger growth mindset. And for everybody listening, I just want to encourage you. The growth is where the juice is in life. This is, we've all heard this: if you're not growing, you're dying. And, for many years, I didn't quite comprehend what that really meant. Like, I understood. If I'm not growing, I'm going the other way. I get it. But the real point of that verse, in my opinion, is if I'm not growing, I'm not experiencing what I should be experiencing in life. Growth is the fun part of life. It's challenging myself. It's trying to become someone better. And the fulfillment that I get from knowing that I am better today than I was yesterday. And I'm way better than I was a week ago. I'm way better than I was a year ago. And that growth is so exciting. So to surround yourself, go to courses like this, show up in places where it's going to challenge you, it's going to help you grow. No matter how well you're doing, you could be doing better. And it's not just about doing better for yourself. It's not just about doing better financially. It's about having more impact on people. It's about doing better for the people around you so that you leave a greater legacy.
Past success is not a great predictor of future performance. And I think if we always keep that in mind, it helps us to always be going, okay, what do we need to do differently? How do we play? How do we step out? How do we remain relevant? I think is so, so crucial. When you bring people into your community, or you bring people into your philosophy around play a bigger game, what are the kind of like key, you talked about the 7 universal principles, or I think it was something similar to that. So what are those 7 universal principles that we need to be aware of and focus on?
We could get deep into that conversation, but let me just highlight a couple of the key ones for you. One is something we've been talking about this whole time, which is choice. I love talking about choice and helping people recognize and truly believe and understand that you have so much choice. You're in control of more than you realize. And if you don't accept that control, so for example, I am in full control of my confidence level. Now people are like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't set my own confidence level. You absolutely do. And if you don't accept that you are the one in control of that confidence level, guess what? You are giving the keys to other people to make that decision for you. And you know who's doing it? Well, McDonald's got together with the pharmaceutical companies, who got together with Netflix, who got together with your family and friends, and they went, this is what we're comfortable with for your confidence level. It's a true story. And I know that for a fact because I love doing exercises to help people in an instant change their confidence level. And they're walking around like this and they're feeling like this. And now it doesn't mean that they can just do that immediately all day, every day. Well, it sort of does. But you now will need to realize I have to build certain things up so I can, if I want to keep walking around like this, what do I have to do? Who do I have to become so I can? But knowing that it's a choice. It's a choice how you show up every single day. It's a choice how much energy you have. Again, that's one that blows people's minds. What are you talking about? Some people are born with energy and some, no, they're not. I had crap energy for so many years, but now I know that it's a choice. There's a bunch of little choices. It's not just, today I'm going to show up with tons of energy. No. How do I show up with energy every day? Well, I know I have to get my exercise in. I know I have to get my meditation in, my prayer time in. I have to eat the right foods. I've got about 10 to 12 things that set my energy level so that I can show up like this. So what's beautiful about my book and the principles is it's not just information, because we can consume all day long because we're in such a consumeristic society. But if you don't take action, nothing will change. Mm-hmm. So I put in so many challenges and so many advanced challenges in the book so that you read something and I'm encouraging you and pushing you to put it into immediate action so that it can have an impact on your life.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Beautiful. I really like that. Now, we all know smart people have great answers, but the most successful people ask great questions. When was the last time you did something for the first time?
Oh, wow. I love that question so much. And by the way, I'm gonna put out the answer, but I'm also gonna give you guys one of my favorite pieces of advice that I've learned in the last few years. Do you know one of the reasons that so many people's marriages start to fall apart after a certain amount of years? It doesn't even matter how many years. I'm at over 19 years with my wife. We're going to celebrate 20 this year. I'm obsessed with my wife. I don't just like my wife. I love my wife. And it's so important to me that I keep that fresh. And I want to be saying those same words. I know I'll be saying those same words at 120 when I get there. Hopefully she's still around. Yeah. I mean, if God keeps her around for 120, because that's where I'll be. But here's the thing. We have to keep it fresh and we have to do new things together. One of the things about when we're dating and when we're first getting to know someone, everything is new. You're trying to figure out not only how you feel about stuff, but it's so exciting to watch how do they feel about stuff? How do they react to stuff? And what happens is we get so complacent. We go to the same restaurants. We watch the same movies. We do all these same things. I already know how my wife's going to act. There's nothing new. The conversation's even boring. So of course the marriage starts to fall apart. So my wife and I have made a commitment to constantly do new things together. We try new things all the time because we want to go, what was that like for Brooke at this age? And I love being part of that. And then we have big discussions. What was that like for you? So we did a totally different style. We've both done types of yoga in the past, but we went to a couples yoga class and it was just a totally different style of yoga. And the teacher just was watching us laughing because she could tell what we were doing together. And we talked about it for hours afterwards. What was that like for you? What was this like for you? We're going to be doing a hip hop dance class in the next few weeks. Neither of us know how to dance at all. We were talking about do we go ballroom dancing? But it was so cliche. Both of us love 90s hip hop. And we're like, why don't we take a hip hop dance class? Because it'll be freaking hilarious. We're going to challenge ourselves. It's going to be totally new. And I know we're going to have stories for a lifetime.
Fantastic. What is the one question that you would love to solve?
Oh, I think it's how do we get more people off the couch? And I know that's kind of like such a broad statement. I just feel like I honestly believe that 99% of people or more have fallen asleep. This world has lulled them to sleep. Netflix has lulled them to sleep. Food delivery services has lulled them to sleep. Everybody's so complacent, comfortable. it's not worth going outside. It's not worth taking a step that I've never taken before because this is comfort. And I'm doing things in the best of my power right now and my abilities to help wake people up. But man, I would love to solve that question on a global scale. What will it take to really wake people up? It makes me so heartbroken to see people being complacent, and they're essentially retiring at about 26 years old. Yeah, they haven't hung up their boots yet. And yeah, they haven't been put in the grave yet, but they're dead. They're dead. They've said, this is what I'll do for the rest of my life. It'll be a different day. I'll look a little different. I'll look a little older. That mortifies me. So I would love to solve the problem of how to wake these people up. But this is such a profound question. May I turn it on you? I would love to hear what your answer is.
Yeah, so I've had it since I was probably the earliest I remember asking this question was probably 12 years old. Why aren't people healthier, happier, and hungrier for success? For me, I was very, very clear from a young age exactly what I was going to do. I was very clear on the vision where I go. I was finding myself looking at people going, you've got way more talent than I have, but why am I doing more than you? Why am I able to achieve more than you? Why are you wasting that talent? Or they have lots of talent, they're being successful, but they're really unhealthy.
Yes.
Or they are healthy, they're hungry for success, but they're unhappy. And so how do you get those three balanced right? So that's always been the question for me. How can I help people be healthier, happy, and hungry for success?
I love it. I love it. It sounds like you and I are very much on a similar path, aren't we?
Yes, 100%. For you, what is an inspiring great leader, and who is a great example of this for you?
I love Ed Milet. I don't know how popular he is over there, but I assume he is because I know he's always over there doing big talks. But I love Ed Milet because he's such a great businessman, but he's giving back every day so much to help others live happier, healthier lives. And he's not afraid to talk about his faith. And he's so bold and courageous in who he is. And he's being his authentic self. So in so many ways, he's such an inspiration to me. He's a great leader. He's one of my 5 that helps me challenge myself every day to be a more authentic Marcus and to show up every day the way the world needs me to show up, and to be bold in my faith, and to be bold in encouraging others, and to use my talents and gifts to help and serve all the people around me.
Beautiful. Marcus, you shared so much great knowledge and wisdom and perspective on life so far. How can people learn more about what you do, and what is the best way for people to connect with you?
Oh, thank you for that. Come check me out at playbiggergame.com. I spend a lot of time in there. I just love pouring out into the people in that community because it's the people who are stepping up saying, I want more out of life. And it's a beautiful mastermind. And my mastermind is like the cream of the crop. These are the people who are like going to do amazing things in this world. And I love pouring into them. You can always find me on Instagram at Markus Kaulius. Super easy to spell, I know. And DM me. Like if you found me through this podcast, please DM me. I would love to hear from you. I will absolutely respond. We will connect. And I just love to hear what you got out of this. And then one last thing I'd like to give as a gift for my buddy Craig here. Craig does such an amazing job. Craig, truly, you're doing a phenomenal job, and you're gifting people so much with this. So one thing we all need to do for Craig, will you take a couple of minutes today and go give him a 5-star rating? It makes a big difference because the more of those he gets, the more people the algorithm will shoot him out to, the more people are going to look up this podcast, and the greater we can serve Craig, and Craig can keep serving us. So Craig, thank you for what you're doing, man. I appreciate so much you having me on here, allowing me to be part of this amazing conversation, man. I'm proud of you, and I know you're going to continue to do amazing things.
Marcus, been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today, and thank you for those kind words. I love that you're able to really recognize something at a young age, and that, things may not have been challenging when you were younger, but you were able to get to a point where you realize something. And I think a lot of in life, we need to go through a struggle. We need to get lost to find ourselves, and you're really able to find yourselves. And I love that you're playing that in that space now where you can help people find themselves. And it's not, it's not like that easy route. Sometimes you've got to challenge them to be able to bring that out, and to play a bigger game is such an important avenue for many people that will read your book or be part of your mastermind, to be able to step outside of either a comfort zone or a lull in their life or something that's really holding them back, and for you to release that handbrake so they can drive off smoothly, or not so smoothly, but with a lot more fun and energy than maybe what they have been. To give us the insights in how you dealt with a business that you had for a long period of time, and congratulations on not only that long tenure, but also being able to sell it successfully and feel really fulfilled in that. But to be able to highlight those times where things didn't go so well and you were challenged, but how you overcome those, the way you approach them, and to be able to share that with other people and go, you know what, I'm going to help you fast track through things that, through the mistakes or the long periods of time that I spent trying to figure it out. I'm going to help you accelerate through those phases. You're not going to miss those phases. We're going to help you accelerate through them, and so that you can get on to play a big game and have a bigger impact on this world. So, Markus, thank you very much for your time. Really, really appreciate it, and grateful for another wonderful conversation. And I look forward to staying in touch in the future.
Thank you so much. I look forward to that too. God bless you, my friend.
It's time for you to join the Inspiring Great Leaders movement by visiting craigjohns.com.au. Share this podcast on LinkedIn and be sure to hashtag Inspiring Great Leaders. We would love it if you could leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Drop us a line with your feedback and questions, and connect with us on the Craig Johns LinkedIn, Facebook and Instagram pages. Be sure to check out the next Inspiring Great Leaders podcast, where the ordinary don't belong.